The new 5G rollout messing with altimeters. Update on everyone's favorite plane jumper. And FedEx is asking for anti-missile lasers. Do they know something we don't? Well, let's find out on Taking Off. Hi, I'm Dan Milliken, and we're going to hit some of the aviation stories that are buzzing today. And these are brought to you by our sponsors, Flying Eyes with the new regular glasses, as well as their awesome line of sunglasses, and by Colton Mortgage, where if you call for that residential or refi mortgage, you'll actually talk to someone here in the U.S., and they can help you with any question you might have. And the first 50 apps get a pair of free Flying Eye sunglasses and a cool hoodie with Colton Mortgage and Taking Off. So go to coltontakingoff.com. Okay, so let's get to the news. On January 11th, a medical transport helicopter transporting a baby girl crash landed in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. In an incredibly densely populated area, the pilot was able to avoid schools and buildings, traffic, poles and power lines, and auto-rotated next to a church. The skills of this hero pilot not only saved the lives of the flight crew and passengers, but also the people on the ground below. Then, as if that wasn't enough, the crew took steps immediately after to make sure fuel and fluids from the helicopter were stopped before they became a danger to others. Though they had some injuries, nothing was life-threatening. That pilot is my hero. All right, turning to the opposite side of the spectrum, because I don't want to give this dude any more screen time than necessary. Quick update on Trevor Jacob. I'm not going to recap the story. You can go here for that. But here's some updates we didn't have at the time of publication last week. Trevor Jacob, according to news reports, hired a helicopter and flew out, found his crash, and removed the airplane to an undisclosed location. Since he had informed the NTSB and the FAA right after the crash, it's unknown if the agencies were aware of this move and what kind of consequences Jacob could face. Also, the internet is buzzing about the fire extinguishers. I don't know who was the first to spot this, but just wow. Trevor Jacob flew the plane with fire extinguishers fixed to his calves and covered by his pants. Talk about the smoking gun exposing intent to the crash. He talks about the message to always fly with a parachute, but he didn't tell us about always flying with a fire extinguisher taped to your body. But here's the real crazy thing. I've talked to firefighters. If the plane had crashed and started a fire, he'd have 1 or 2 minutes before the fire quickly escalated way past a fire extinguisher or two. And that's if the crash had even started a small fire. In other words, he would have had to have landed right there at the same time of the crash to even have a shot at fire containment, and then probably not. Basically, the fire extinguishers were useless. And finally, in my video, I said he departed Lompoc. I've been corrected multiple times. It's Lompoc. P-O-C, poke. In a couple of weeks, we're going to have an aviation attorney on in the hangar, and we're going to look realistically what might be in store for Mr. Jacob. In the meantime, that's all I want to say about him. Moving on. Recently, the world met in Glasgow, Scotland to discuss what many feel is a climate crisis, how carbon emissions are leading to a dangerous rise in global temperatures. And the leaders of the world arrived in jumbo jet after jumbo jet. And in the case of the Japanese, they actually arrived twice, sending their heavy jet over from Japan to Scotland to make sure the jet could land on that runway. Before it went back, picked up all the diplomatic contingent from Japan all the way back to Glasgow. And before people start commenting on that's hearsay and whatever, I was there in Glasgow. I attended the event as a journalist on assignment from a network. I saw firsthand how much extra carbon was burned to have the global summit on climate. So the FAA is getting on board the green wagon, pledging to have net zero carbon emissions by 2050. And the first big move by the FAA is to change the way commercial jets land. Right now, jets land in a stair-step pattern, descending to a given altitude and decreasing thrust, and then bringing the throttles back up for cruising at that new altitude and then given another descent down to a lower level. The agency has 42 new optimized profile descents, or OPDs, not to be confused with ODPs, in which the aircraft will descend from cruise all the way to the runway with throttles near idle. FAA spokesperson Matthew Lanner said in a news interview, "If you just think about what takes more energy, walking down the stairs or sliding down a slide, that's basically what the plane is doing." Interesting. This should work in theory, but will depend on air traffic control being on their game, as planes will be kept at the higher cruise altitude longer before jumping on that slide down to the ground. What do you think? Are the changes being made in an effort to keep global temperatures from rising? Are they real solutions or just virtue signaling that really won't make a difference or very little difference in the long run? Let me know below. Okay, coming back from that trip to Scotland, I was flying commercial from Glasgow to Heathrow, enjoying my window seat, when the flight attendant asked me to turn off my phone. Here's my last pictures. I thought she meant put it in airplane mode, but she quickly corrected that. She wanted it off. Interference with the auto land feature, as there was a fog bank directly over Heathrow. I dutifully shut down my phone. And this was the first I'd heard about 5G interference issues. Well, in the U.S., the FAA has announced the clearance of 45% of the commercial aircraft fleet to land in the low visibility conditions after the rollout of the new 5G C-band systems on January 19th in the U.S. The issue here is the interference with altimeters with the new 5G C-band, and systems using those affected altimeters can lead to disastrous consequences. Several airline groups have been warning the FAA of the problems, and many airports are subject to this new interference. When AT&T and Verizon won the bid for the C-band spectrum, they agreed to a buffer zone around 50 airports, but many believe that won't be enough to prevent flight disruptions at other airports across the U.S. The FAA is barring auto landings at more than 100 airports when the C-band starts up on the 19th of January. There's also a push to delay the C-band rollout, but as of the shooting deadline of this story, rollout still on schedule. Watch those altimeters. FedEx has requested from the FAA approval to carry anti-missile lasers on its aircraft. Makes me wonder what FedEx knows. History on the request. In 2008, FedEx partnered with Northrop Grumman to test anti-missile systems for commercial aircraft. They did it for a full year. So the execs at FedEx are very aware what the systems can do. The way lasers work in anti-missile defense is different than like the flares the smaller military aircraft employ. Heat-seeking missiles are harder to fool with flares due to the large heat signature from the engines of the big jets. So lasers shown intently on the incoming missiles blind it, much like shining a mirror into the eyes of someone watching you, so that the missile loses guidance. The application to the FAA requests the system be employed on the fleet's Airbus 321 aircraft. In the application, FedEx references several situations abroad where civilian aircraft were targeted with manned portable air defense systems. The biggest roadblock to approval of this application will be the speedy research and safety development of the FAA. They'll have to perform all that to stamp an okay on the system that emits lasers from the aircraft that potentially causes issues on other people, other aircraft, people on the ground. Once the application hits the public registry in a few days, you can actually go make a public comment. And wouldn't it be a good thing to just shoot that laser back at the idiot that lights up a cockpit from his backyard? Wouldn't that be a nice surprise? In the end, I expect that this will be given approval. What do you think? Military tech used for the commercial airliners? A good thing? Not so good thing? Leave a comment below. Okay, some housekeeping. We've got the next season of In the Hangar about to shoot in Fort Worth, Texas, January 29th through the 31st. We'd love to have you in as a studio audience. We're going to be doing some questions, and we're also going to be giving away some stuff. So we try to shoot about 30 or so episodes during that weekend, and I hope you can come join us. If you want to, information on what to do is in the description. And don't forget to visit our sponsors, Flying Eyes Optics. Use TakingOff, all caps, one word, for 10% off. And really, Colton Mortgage is awesome. You reach out to them, you're not going to get an automated voice that sends you to some call center outside the U.S. You'll talk to a real person who can answer the tough questions that you might have. Colton TakingOff. Thanks again for watching, and remember, superior judgment trumps superior skills.